It's time for WTAP's Football Frenzy, the Mid-Ohio Valley's home for the most complete football action. Sponsored by WVU Parkersburg and by Matheny Buick GMC.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to week number 12 of Football Frenzy, brought to you by West Virginia University at Parkersburg. The action continues to heat up as we had more postseason action in Ohio and the final week of the regular season in West Virginia. I'm Josiah Schuneman, joined alongside by Andrew Knoll. It's always a fun time of the season when the games are so important, Andrew.
Absolutely, Josiah. It's playoff time. Seeding and matchups will be set in the Mountain State after this week, and two Ohio rivals battled it out with a chance to advance in the postseason. We'll start with that matchup in the Buckeye State, where it was part of two of the battle for the River.
Yeah, tonight the Fort Fry Cadets hosted another playoff game, this time against Waterford. We'll take you right to it. There's Grady Hessen finding Tice Beardsley on the sideline for gets 1 foot down for the catch. A nice gain there. Then later in the drive, Hessen hands it off to Clayton Miller. He bobs and weaves through the defense, and he'll break free into the secondary. He's got plenty of room, and he will not be caught. He's down the sidelines and in for the huge touchdown run. Fort Fry strikes first as they take a 7-0 lead as Miller celebrates with his teammates. Early second quarter, Hayden Jones takes the direct snap at the goal line, powers his way through for the touchdown. Waterford strikes back to tie it up at 7 apiece. The Cadets would answer back, though. Hessen on the QB sneak and gets into the end zone easily for the score. Fort Fry is back on top, 14-7. Moving to the third, it's now 17-7. Again, it's Jones on the keeper, and he fights his way in again. That cuts it to a three-point game. What a run there. Later in the quarter, Hessen with the inside handoff to Tice Beardsley, but the ball is popped loose and recovered by Jacob Burke. However, Fort Fry would come away with a 29-26 victory. They move on to the regional semifinal to face Grandview Heights. Waterford ends its season at 9-3.
All right, Josiah, let's head out to Stadium Field as the Parkersburg Big Reds welcome the Applemen of Musselman to town on senior night. We pick up the action in the second quarter. Big Reds up 7-0 already. Appleman's wide receiver, Demarion Warren, takes the handoff, loses the ball, and it's Cyrus Backus with the recovery for the Big Reds to give them great field position. On the next play, it's Cooper Kincaid rolling out to his right, and he will connect with a wide-open Braxton Kupfner in the end zone to extend the Big Reds' lead to 14-0 right before halftime. On the first drive in the second half, it's Musselman responding as quarterback Zachary Miller drops back, throws one deep down the field, and he squeezes it over two defenders to Nathaniel LaSure for the 30-yard score to cut the deficit to 14-6. Late in the third now, it's the Big Red striking again as running back Ethan Jones takes the handoff, breaks through the hole, and he will go untouched into the end zone, waltzing. A little bit of a show for the fans. Shout out to my friends on the sidelines there, getting a couple high fives in. Parkersburg 22-6. In the fourth now, it's the Big Reds adding another touchdown as Aeneas Lauderman evading a tackler and barreling his way through the defender at the goal line to extend the lead to 29-6. The Big Reds would go on to win this one by that final score for their fourth win of the season. Josiah.
Now we go over to Princeton, taking on Parkersburg South. We pick it up. Tigers lead 14-6. Here's Daniel Jennings making it 21-6 after a big touchdown run here. But afterwards, it would start to go awry a little bit for the Tigers as Jennings gets the handoff, but he will fumble it while falling down, and Cole Middleton scoops it up to make it 21-14 after the two-pointer. And then the Patriots get the ball right back. They keep putting on the charge. Colin Hayes fires to Taj Joyce for the big catch and run across midfield. You see him finally get taken down here. Beautiful catch and run there. South would capitalize as Eli Bartley gets the handoff from a yard out, and we're all tied up at 21. Then a little later in the second quarter, South takes the lead as another big drive leads to Bartley scoring again, making it 27-21 after a missed PAT. The Tigers pounce before the end of the half. Chance Barker sees pressure in his face, just heaves one down the field for Brad Mosser, who comes up with a nice snag on the sideline. Great catch there. Princeton in the red zone. Barker lasers one to Jake Belcher for the score. However, Parkersburg South would end up losing to Princeton by the final score of 48-47. Well, stay with us. There's a lot more ahead on tonight's Football Frenzy,
including the Williamstown Yellow Jackets, who are on the road taking on Scott.